Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the CEO Next Door podcast. With you today is myself, Mike Mayer, CEO of Main Event Digital, my co-host Donovan Morrison, and our esteemed guest, Nick O'Brien. He is the founder of Templi. And I'll let Nick explain it, but from what I understand, Templi is an online business selling packaging custom branded for restaurants. It might expand, but I'll let him, I'll hand it over to Nick. And Nick, if you could tell us about yourself and what you're up to today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Mike and Donovan. At Templi, we are working with bars, restaurants, hotels, the hospitality, food, and beverage sector, as well as the brand identity designers who are creating identities for these types of in-person food and drink brands. And the one thing that they all struggle with is finding packaging and dealing with suppliers and lead times and information. It is really a heavily middleman business where the largest companies order direct from big plants, and then and the small to medium business range, you've got a lot of middleman brokers where those smaller factories don't want to deal with the end consumer who might feel is unsophisticated in that industry. And of course that makes sense. Why would a baker know anything about converted packaging? And so those smaller plants like to deal with middlemen. This is called the trade, right? So they sell to the trade, and then those middlemen, they go out and they find the clients, and then they sell to the clients. And that's been totally fine for 100 years. The problem is people are getting on their phones, they're booking Ubers, they're getting takeaway, everything is instant. Amazon is 2-day delivery. And the last thing a 25-year-old cafe owner wants to do is hop on the phone, email back and forth, and spend weeks trying to figure out how to get something produced. Templi focuses on supplies. So we feel like we're more of a supply chain disruptor option where these are things that people are going through constantly. So it's not something you want to keep emailing and calling someone about. And so Templi takes a complicated process, which is manufacturing and packaging, and we bring it online. And so we allow customers to order all of this online, manage it online, and we acquire these customers online through digital marketing, ads. And so we're kind of a business in an old industry that is a little further upstream with a net, and we're catching customers upstream where they're just thinking about starting their business, and they're searching espresso machines and other industry related items, and then our ads are served to them further upstream. And so we get to them earlier, and so that's a big benefit of our operation is we get clients first before they open their doors, and so there'll ideally be less clients for our competitors downstream after they open. And then hopefully we serve them best pricing, easy management for reorders, and we educate them. And so we just try and make ordering branded packaging a hell of a lot easier.
So are you kind of a one-stop shop where you're doing the actual branding, you're doing the packaging design, you're doing fulfillment, you're doing it all? Or is there one piece of that that you particularly specialize in?
Yeah, good question, Donovan. So we don't do the branding design.
Okay.
Uh, I found that we would kind of be cannibalizing all of our design agency customers that come to us. A design agency is like a golden egg for my business, where they love working with us. We make it easy for them. It takes them less time to order through us. And so as they do new brand identity designs for new restaurants, new bars, they keep sending us new clients. So if anyone ever needs design work, we love sending them back to those designers. So
Nick,
Templi just handles the production,
yeah,
start to finish.
What kind of products? Give us some examples of what
Yeah.
your customers are ordering.
So think about your favorite cafe, bakery, You're getting a coffee cup with their branding on it, a
Mhm.
takeaway bag with their logo, a pastry bag. We do masking tape, coasters for a bar, and yeah, we like to think of ourselves as kind of a night market for brand identity design. So we don't want just like the same, although we have staple products like a takeaway bag, when it comes to something like pens for a hotel, we want to make sure we have more of like a museum gift shop vibe than a promotional products vibe. We want to
Sure.
be somewhere like when people care about design, like they like our products a lot better because we also care about design and look and all that stuff.
Are-
So we are food and beverage focused, but
Mhm.
certainly we do a lot of matches, and tattoo shops love matches,
Oh,
um,
cool.
candle companies. So it's food and beverage, but there's a lot of industries that order from us.
Are there minimums, and what do your lead times look like?
Yeah, the all important question these days. We try and have the lowest minimums possible, but minimums range from product to product. So, for example, like if you want custom printed coffee cups, we'll usually have two options. Like, here's the digital low 1,000 minimum option.
Mhm.
But then if you want best price, we use flexo printing. And so those minimums would be like 15,000 cups per size.
Okay.
So we try having like low minimum options and then like best price, higher minimum options. Lead times are very product specific. Like our coasters they've never changed, 3 to 4 weeks.
Mhm.
Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, never
Okay.
changed.
Okay.
And then other products like coffee cups and bags, those minimums are increasing because of certain industry specific constraints like paper supply, things like that. But we
Sure.
tried managing that. That is like what we focus on is reducing time. And I think every business should focus on that. And
Yeah.
anyone wanting to start a business, how are you going to save your customer time?
Right.
Time is the asset that everyone cares most deeply about. You know, we don't get an Uber because we just love their black cars versus yellow cars. We get Uber because it saves us time. We don't have to sit out in the rain
Right.
hailing a cab in New York. We could just keep hanging out with our friends, have another beer, and then hop outside when the Uber's there. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about time saved, Amazon, things like that. So we focus on time and things like having the lead times front and center on the product page, like saves them time. It saves them an email, saves us an email. If we spend less time on something, we can lower our margins, pass that
Right.
along to them.
Right.
So many businesses are time intensive, right? And like any business really. And so if you could reduce that time through efficiencies and through presentation, um, you're going to spend less time handling that order than your competitors. So you can
Mhm.
have a lower margin, yet still have the same total margin because you can handle more orders.
Sounds like a smart model.
So what has been your most unique packaging request that you've received?
We did custom condoms for the Standard Hotel. Um,
Wow.
yeah, we printed the box. We did 3 vulgar positional illustrations, and those were a great time. Yeah, those were great. We didn't do the production ourselves.
Mm.
We used this company, I think Boston Manufacturing. They all they do is condoms. So
Okay.
don't buy condoms from like someone that sells a lot of things. We bought it
Yeah.
right from the
Yeah.
actual manufacturer.
Don't take any chances.
Yeah.
So did
So
I,
go ahead, Donovan.
yeah, I was going to say, did I see, is Templi based out of New York?
Yep, we're in Brooklyn.
Awesome. Are you from
We're a New
there,
York
born and
brand.
raised?
Um, my wife will get a kick because she always says that I tell people I'm from New York when I was just born here, but I grew up all my life in New Jersey. But I take some pride in that. My great grandfather came over from Ellis Island, turn of the century, and
Mhm.
we've we're born in New York this entire time. So
Mhm.
my daughter was born a year ago, and so she was the fifth generation born in New York City.
Wow.
I'm kind of happy with that. But then um, there was like one time where New York, like where there's a few exoduses, but my family kind of left in the late 90s, and the whole family moved to New Jersey. Like one big kind of, group all moved to New Jersey, and that's where I grew up. So had a
So
great childhood out there.
Nick, take us back. Take us back to your roots, your childhood. And on this podcast, we like to learn about founder stories.
Yeah.
So what's your story?
I'm very much like my father. He's a kind of a rough, funny, gregarious guy. Everyone loves him. Likes to party, and so that was probably a little too much for my mother when she had the two babies in New York City. So she moved me and my sister out to New Jersey, and so I grew up single mother who was raising my sister and myself.
Okay.
And we grew up. She was entrepreneurial. She worked FedEx as a carrier, $14 an hour, and that was 30 years ago. Tells you about wage increases since then. She took care of us. She raised us so well, and she took over my grandfather's print shop. He was a retired New York State trooper. He got a Sir Speedy print franchise in New Jersey, and he wasn't really a strong businessman, more of just like everyone loves him and good salesperson. And so that business kind of sold at a break even, and then she was in a place where she had clients. She knew production and printing, and so she started a kind of a broker middleman company, Concept Print, and she still runs that business today. And so we one of our first cars like didn't go backwards, right? It was like so I have very fond memories growing up, and was very proud of the steps up my mother took in growing her business. I was always like a rambunctious kid growing up. It was like the late 90s. It was like they were just trying to fix kids with ADD with like all types of stuff. And I think I was probably one of the first kids that they gave the ADHD title to, like hyperactive.
Yeah.
So that I remember myself just kind of being very hyperactive, and I loved sports, hockey, baseball growing up. So I just wanted to be outside, and had a great childhood. And one of the first lessons I learned was I was maybe too hyper, and I think that kind of pushed like kids away. And so I never really understood like why I didn't connect that well with kids. And that was a strong lesson I learned early on, which was like, be mindful of how your actions impact other people. People may laugh and joke, but like maybe they don't like getting, touched on the shoulder, or maybe they don't like, joking around too much. So it's like having an awareness of people's personalities and how to communicate with them kind of served me well. But that experience kind of led me to feeling a bit isolated. And so when I got to high school, I was always had friends, but I still felt isolated, if that makes sense. And then when I got to high school, I found a new friend that we connected with very strong. But he was kind of, I would say, the outcast. We were all kind of outcasts, but we connected like outside of school. And he was smoking, and selling weed at a young age. We were both probably 14, 15. And it seemed as if when I started being introduced to his friends, that if you just didn't care about consequences, you were more accepted and more connected. And I think it was like the connection with other people. As like an extrovert myself, I was like so drawn to that. And if I got into a couple fights or I got arrested, it wasn't a big deal to me. I didn't really see the downside of it. I just loved having fun with friends. And that progressed like a big snowball really quickly downhill over the course of 5 years. And that led to more drug dealing, more heavy partying, more fights. When you're running around with friends, like 15 friends, everyone's got a problem with somebody else, and then those problems are your problems, and you're just like fighting all the time. Um, so, but a lot of great memories and connections and friends. Unfortunately, many of them have passed away recently and over the years, and it's kind of a wake up call. Like, wow, you know, if you don't cut that type of lifestyle out, your body does not give you much freeway after that. You know,
Right.
you get to 30, 35, like your body's going to start shutting down on you emotionally, mentally, physically. And so,
Mm.
um, so what ended up happening was as we were like trying to be tough guys essentially, and I think the whole time I was trying to mimic my father, who I've always looked up to. And I felt like if you were tough, if you could fight, then yeah, you're a man. And I kind of lost. I never had a sense of what being a man was. You know, all I saw were movies, shows, and like, oh, if you just have to be tough and fun, right? And unfortunately, that led me to kind of a breaking point after I turned 18. Basically, between 15 and 18, every cop in my local suburb like wanted to arrest me and my friends. And I think they were probably just waiting till I turned 18. And then what ended up happening was we basically my friend was like, who owed me money. We always owed each other money. He was like, hey, I could pay you back, but we just got to go like steal weed from this dealer. And I was like, sure, why not? What else am I doing on a Tuesday? um, then we did that. They ended up, my friends in the car ended up having like fake guns on them, which I didn't think was a great idea, but it was like, yeah, why not, I guess. And so we just stole weed from this kid, basically. Like, there's really nothing to it. But he happened to be an informant with the police, and they heard about it, and they said, you know what, that looks like an armed robbery. And technically, by the book, it was an armed robbery. It really doesn't matter what you take. Um, so maybe like if we were in Brooklyn or some inner city, like that never would have gotten picked up. Like that just
Mhm.
would not be a crime. It would,
Right.
why are you bothering us? But in the suburbs in that area, with that situation, it was. And so my two friends ended up cooperating. Well, unbeknownst to me, so it was kind of like a backstabbing thing that went on. But my other friend and I, my best friend, we wouldn't tell on each other, and so basically we ended up going down for that crime,
Oh
the
no.
two of us. And
Oh no.
I was put in a situation at 18 where am I going to go to trial? And that's where I learned more about the legal system and the injustices, regardless of color, because if you go to trial and you lose, that judge will throw the book at you. It's almost
Mhm.
like they penalize you for taking ownership of your rights to a fair trial, right? Um, and so the minimum was 10 years, the maximum was 20 years. And so it's like,
Wow.
are you going to risk it when you have two people that have pulled on you? Am I gonna take that risk and not see my 20s? So I took a plea deal. And I said, you know what? The plea deal will be 3 years, and I'll just take that, and it's not going to be fun. But that's what ended up happening. So I got sentenced to 3 years. Even going
Wow.
to sentencing, I thought this isn't going to happen. Like, no, I did all this stuff. I got these letters, and no, it was over very quickly. Remanded to New Jersey Correctional Facility for 3 years, and all the people behind me, my family, just broke down to tears. Probably the lowest point of my life, and I just had to keep my head up and go in. And that's where I realized this place isn't so cool. These people aren't so cool. Like everything I thought I wanted, this isn't it. Like everyone's arguing about the dumbest stuff. Um, and that's kind of where I began my entrepreneurial journey with my mother. Thank God she was kind enough to send me business books and, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Michael Gerber's The E-Myth. And so that's where I just started soaking up business books because I had nothing else to do. And
Mhm.
then when I came out, I was determined to change my life. And I said, you know what, this is it. Like, had a great time, done with that. I proved everything my silly adolescent brain thought was worth proving. And I said, I just put it behind me. And unfortunately, I had to cut off from all my friends and just walk alone in a different path. And that kind of saved my life. I went traveling for the first time, just went off to Mexico by myself on a National Outdoor Leadership School. That was Knowles. Great experience. 25 days in the Baja Desert with no toilet paper or nothing, just out in nature. That was an eye-opening experience. There I met some people who had traveled. They told me, "Oh, South America, oh, Europe." I was like, "Oh my God, it sounds amazing." And for the next 5 years, what I would do is I worked at my mother's company and I would save up my money. I did every job from, driver to floor sweep to sales and accounting. I would just save up my money, and then I did like 3 or 4 solo backpacking trips by myself. And I understand I'm fortunate to have that option. Not
Mhm.
many people can take a month off of work and come back to the job. So I was very blessed to have that opportunity. Um, but I took advantage of it, and I learned so much and really learned about other people, learned about other cultures. I kind of shed this like American exceptionalism idea, like, no, there's like many countries, many points of views, and
Mhm.
there's just great experiencing other countries and just humbling myself a little bit. And then after that, taking business a little more seriously.
What were some highlights from that, all of your travels? Where have you gone back to anywhere, or where would you like to go back to?
I would say going to seeing Austria was just amazing.
Mhm.
Like I took
Mhm.
the Euro around Europe,
Mhm.
just all of a sudden looking out and you're in Austria and just the forests and like just a gorgeous,
Mhm.
amazing sight. Meeting lifelong friends. It's really kind of, I just stayed at hostels. And that was
Right.
kind of at a time where you wouldn't bring a laptop, like it was too heavy and big, and you
Sure.
wouldn't want to work, so you'd actually like throw a coin in the internet cafe and you'd
Mhm.
like go onto Yahoo and see if you had any email.
Yeah. It's before you had
um,
an iPhone.
Facebook was like, yeah, just kind of coming about and just meeting people. And it was kind of like you'd hang out at a hostel and
Mhm.
you grab a couple beers, and whoever you were hanging out with would be like, "Hey, you want to go out?" And you just go out.
Mhm.
Just go out, have a good time, come back. And I mean, seeing poverty in Cambodia and Calcutta was eye opening, really humbling, and I think I think just coming away with an understanding of like how lucky we are here in this
Mhm.
country, um, and
Yeah.
that really served me well to humble me and just put me in a good place.
Yeah, I'm sure it's shaped a pretty unique but phenomenal worldview and perspective that you have, Nick. And if
Mhm.
you're comfortable sharing, I would just be curious if from your experience taking it back in prison, maybe some misconceptions that people have about that
Sure.
experience. I mean, for a lot of folks and a lot of our listeners, you see it portrayed in the media, and that's kind of the extent of your knowledge. So,
Yeah.
just from your own experience, anything that you found interesting, some surprising misconceptions?
Okay. Number one, there's a difference between jail and prison. Jail is where you go. It's usually your county jail, and if you get a sentence, usually less than a year, you go to jail. A lot of drug addicts and street people and comings and goings, people there a lot and inside and out. So that's like a different vibe. It could be dangerous. It may not be. You know, um, and that's one area. And then if you get sentenced to over a year, normally you go to prison. It's either called upstate or downstate, one of those two. And that's more serious. And those are more hardened criminals, lifelong criminals, and more gangs. Um, I would say most, yeah, there's a lot of gang activity, and you want to kind of stay out of that. I would say you just It's not fun. You just got to keep your head up and just be a man or woman at any time. And that's kind of how you got to roll. It's like I had to completely drop who I was as a person. And that was kind of interesting. It's like I thought I was tough. I thought, you know, it was really like I just liked having fun. And then you get there and it's like, no, these are really tough people. And you better hold your head up because if you don't, and they test you and you don't fight back, I mean, no one really wants to be in a fight,
Right.
but you got to act, you got to pretend like you do. So that's like this whole weird dynamic. And yeah, it's just keeping your head up. Misconceptions.
Did you find yourself in any fights?
Yes, a
Yeah.
few, and a couple I started dumb enough
Oh,
and was quite surprised, unfortunately surprised. But you want to stay out of it. Like everyone wants to just be cool, just be calm, just
mhm.
go about your day, and that's really what people want. There's two types of prisons in New Jersey. There was like for older people, like over 25, more lengthier times, and
Mhm.
then there's like what they called youth prisons, which are people like 18 to 25. I went to that, and I think that was so less concerns of rape or those types of things in the
Yeah.
youth prisons, but more fighting, right?
Right.
The older ones, you may be more at, someone may be more at risk there, but it's
Right.
more like relaxed, kind of like people don't want to, they just want to do their time in peace. And then young kids just want to fight and they just want to puff their chest and, you know, all of that stuff.
What are
But
your what are
I
your
only, I,
education
go ahead.
options when you're in prison? I mean, you mentioned your mom sent you a couple of books.
Yeah.
Is that really the only way to learn, or do they offer classes
it
or
it goes by the place.
yeah,
Every place is different in what they offer, but generally speaking, no. Like maybe you go from like 0 to 2. You're not going to go from like 5 to 7 in education, or you're not going to, like, it's going to be very base level education.
okay,
But if they let you read, then the world's your oyster at that point.
yeah,
You could read whatever, basically whatever you want, within reason. Yeah.
makes
And
sense.
so just keep reading and you can educate yourself. But of course, it's what you do afterwards that matters, you know.
So, so you came out of prison, you then traveled for 5 years while you were working at your mom's packaging business or print shop.
Print, yeah.
It's a print shop. Then from there, did you continue there? How long were you there? And then what was your kind of, how did you end that and then move on
Yeah.
to the
Well, I
next
wanted just
business?
to be a successful entrepreneur. I want to be like a business owner. I want to be
Hmm.
rich and,
Hmm.
have all the nice things. And that was like the next stage. My early entrepreneurial journey was me having too many ideas and not
Hmm.
enough focus. And that
Right.
was another big lesson, if I could partake in on any budding entrepreneurs, would be have focus and have few ideas,
How did,
right?
how did you narrow down like from all of your ideas? How do you know where to start? I think that's a
Yeah,
challenge
well,
a lot of us have.
you want to be in a business, like if you think just because you have a problem that's a business, unlikely. Like, yeah, that could happen. Uber and all that. Like, there was a problem that they did find a
Mhm.
solution, but likely there's many solutions for that problem.
Sure.
And if they're free, you're going to struggle, right?
Sure.
So, how do you have an idea? Well, you got to have a problem, and you need to have some experience. So, it would be great if you had experience in a business, and then you found some inefficiency in that business you had experience in, and then opened up a business from there.
Right. Right.
But there's also like the path I took is the path that really anyone can take, which is find some middleman business, and there's many of them. Most most existing industries are older. Some are very new, but most have been around a long time. And those industries likely have supply structures, and there's like some middleman in there. And so all you need to do is to start with just be a more efficient middleman. And that's kind of like great American dream is you could be a salesperson in any type of industry, like middleman industry, and make a living for yourself and for your family. Printing is like that. Yeah, there's tons of industries that go through some type of middleman.
Yeah, finding those where you're not reinventing the wheel, just making slight improvements that people will appreciate and latch onto, and you can rock and roll in some of the more antiquated, older school industries.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you go ahead. Mike, sorry. All right. So once your business idea for Templi materialized and you started to focus on it, take us through that journey of how you got the ball rolling. I think people will, a lot of us are in that situation when we have this great idea. We've talked to our family. They say, yeah, it sounds good. Talk to our friends. Well, how do you take it and actually make it into something?
So I'll take back a little step further where from like 25 to 30, I was being a middleman again, but I said, you know what? I just want to work on bigger orders. And so I started I got an overseas sourcing order in the promotional products industry for like $40,000. And I was like, through the roof, oh my God. And then they're like, you gotta deliver, by this date. I was like, okay, sounds good. And I go to the factory, I give them the order, and they're like, oh, by the way, there's this thing called Chinese New Year, and there's no way your order is going to get delivered in time. And then this customer like wants to sue me. And I'm like, it's my first order, and I'm like working through potentially getting sued. And so I just said, you know what? I gotta go to China. So I just hopped on a plane and flew to China, went to the factory. They picked me up and went to dinner, and we just kind of talked through the whole thing, and they figured out a way to get the order out before Chinese New Year.
Wow.
Did you stick around to experience Chinese New Year?
No. I went home. That's a whole other thing. Like you want to, if you're there, you want to make sure you want to be there and don't get caught in between, because there's not gonna be any flights or any way to get out.
Wow.
So I left, and then I said, if I'm going to take this thing seriously, I've got to spend some time there. So 3 weeks actually turned into 2 years because I was having such a great time. And just worked with factory after factory and understood, things from an overseas factories worker perspective, and learn the export import business, like how to clear customs, get things over. And so that was like, okay, that's the business. And that served me well. It was producing like 200,000 in revenue a year, but I figured like, I'm not going to be able to scale this. And that's when I started thinking more about scaling. Maybe I was reading some more things, and I said, it has to be a business that can scale. And this business, I don't think can scale because there's too many nuances with getting things imported. Now, maybe I could have if I was a better business person at that time, but I didn't think it could scale. So when I came back and I started working with some design agencies, and that's why I had this aha moment for Templi, which is, this is something that a growing need, and it's very difficult. So if you want to start a business, maybe start there. Like, what is something that's a growing demand, but it's not easy to order the thing? Like maybe solar is a growing demand, but people don't know how to book an installation, something like that. So I realized that there's incredible demand for designers who kept bringing me print project after print project, and I would send all these orders out to other manufacturers. And I realized, like, wow, there's a wide variety of what designers are designing for a brand identity. Like, it's a bag, it's a pen, it's a coaster, it's this. It's like a wide variety. There's a lot of nuance within the products, and it was very time consuming for them to source it. And they didn't want to spend time sourcing as a designer. They don't get paid to do that. They get paid to design. All this time spent helping their customer find a printer to produce the 12 things they just physically designed for them, that's time lost. So if I could save them time, they're going to keep sending me orders. And I honestly never wanted to be in the printing industry or packaging industry because I just always thought as a middleman, you're dealing with the same catalog of product. Everyone has the same catalog. Oh, we all sell ourselves on service. Like, BS. How can everyone be selling themselves on service? Like, doesn't make any sense. So that's where I wanted to build. If I could build a website that allowed for easy ordering of this thing, I felt that was scalable. And so that's where I started with Templi. And then how it got going along the way was just just going out, taking meetings, impressing people, feeling like they could trust me, getting order after order, and I would just slowly start getting more and more orders. I spent money building the website. You launch, no orders, zero. Like, talk about deflating. Like, here we go, launch day, and you're just waiting around for orders and they never come. That's how it goes, right? Nothing ever goes like the way you hope.
It's a very
and
common
it's all
story.
about what you do next, right?
Yes.
So you just got to keep plugging away order after order, and then finally, I saved, had enough business to hire a software engineer right out of boot camp, not like an experienced one, but he was great. Max was amazing. He helped me improve the website, and then we started getting some orders through the site, and that started growing. And then I started spending money on ads and focusing on marketing. And then from there, the business started taking off. Like, I no longer had to take meetings or do presentations on packaging. It was just, okay, let's focus on getting traffic in, converting it, and building out the operations to handle that order flow. And so that's where we are today, where sales have ramped up, doubled year over year, and we have like profitable ad spend. So right now, all we really need to do is pour more money on the fire.
Amazing.
And then balance operations. And that is the sweet spot, thankfully, for any business, is if you can get new customers simply by turning up the dial on the ad spend. And then if you feel like it's profitable, then you can just spin it, and just keep cranking it up. But obviously keeping your operations intact. There's nothing worse than, spending money to get a customer, and then you don't have the team to handle the order. They're pissed off. They write a review, and then like, okay, we're spending money to lose customers. This isn't good. So you gotta balance the two as you go, but it's fun.
So how many years in are you at this point, and how big's the team?
5 years in, and we've grown over the last year. We've grown from 2 to 10 people.
Wow, that's a pretty significant increase. How have you managed that team growth?
It's a learning process, and I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. There's so many ways I could be better, and I'm trying to get better. One of the ways is documentation and communication with your team. People really want directive. Like, what do I do? How do I measure success? And you have to have that ready and prepared for people. And if you don't, you're going to fall into this small business trap that so many people fall into, which is, I do everything. I hire people. I don't spend the time and energy to create documentation and clarity of thought. And then all of a sudden, I'm so busy because everyone has questions for me, operational questions. What do I do here? What do I say there? And then I just have so many questions. I'm so busy, I can't do anything. I don't get any sleep. And I just you kind of limit your growth because you yourself have to drive the business. And if you don't have time to do that, you're not going to grow. And really, the great businesses have their employees drive the growth, not them. And the only way that's possible is if they have very clear direction on what to do, how to do it, and how to measure it. They say clarity of thought is preceded. I'm sorry, clarity of communication is preceded by clarity of thought, right? So you need to take the time to think about your operations, think about what you want, how this business should operate. Go get a free trial at Lucid, you know, create documentation, have your break your business down into a schematic. You know, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do that.
Right.
Present that to people, show them this is what you do. And then these are all the scenarios that could come up in each situation. This is how you handle it. Have a big presentation, spend a week preparing for the presentation, and then have clear communication with your team on what they need to do. Any small business can start outpacing their competitors simply by doing that alone.
So that type of growth, very fun, very exciting, but also incredibly stressful. How do you stay sane, either personally or professionally? And how do you kind of manage it all?
Yeah, this is kind of a big age-old question. And for me, I have a 1-year-old that needs to be picked up at 5:15 from daycare every day. I do that 3 times. My wife does it twice. And so, yeah, try leaving your team at 5:15. It's not fun, but you need to find the hours, obviously. So what I like to think about is, okay, these are my hours, and then what's the quality of the work during those hours? You honestly don't need to work 18 hours a day. And yes, that can help, but only if they're quality hours of work. The human brain, I'm convinced, probably only has 4 or 5 hours of quality work in them a day. The rest you're just kind of catching up or in meetings or something else. So I think the issue for a lot of business owners and people who are trying to start a business is, did you really get those 4 quality hours? Or did you get like 3 kind of hours and then you called it a day, or then you went back to this? So for me, the 9 to 5 is like not enough hours, to get everything done. So you need to create those hours. And is it going to be before? So there's 3 ways, right? Mornings, nights, weekends. The mornings and nights, whatever fits your personality and your lifestyle. Weekend, same thing. If I can get 3 to 5 hours of work in on a weekend, I'll chalk that up as a successful weekend, and then just enjoy time with family and friends. I tried mornings. I'm not a morning person. Okay. It's like, I'm not genetically a morning person at all. I want to stay up late. I want to hang out. I want to watch a documentary about like World War II or something. I don't want to wake up early, but you just realize, like, okay, for me personally, that's going to be the only way. Like, I just have to find a way to wake up early. And yeah, I'm still a work in progress. So anyone listening that they want to create a business, like, I'm not set in stone, imperfect, and it's always a struggle to do the right thing, but it gets easier. It gets easier over time. And so for me, I try and wake up at like 5 recently. I try and get an hour and a half of good work in, and then baby wakes up probably 7 to 8, where my wife and I are working with my daughter and enjoying that time and getting ready, and then off to daycare, off to work, and then pick her up, and then we'll have family time for a couple hours, few hours, and then she'll go to sleep. And then I now realize my enemy is getting to bed early. So that's like, it's not okay. If you want to wake up early, it's not about waking up early. It's really not like going to sleep early.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
So that's what I try focusing on. And I try to get some reading in, some physical non-screen reading in, for 20 minutes. And then I try getting in bed at like 9:30 if I can. And that's it. So I just try and have really productive hours. And then I try really communicating with my team what they need to do, how to do it. and empowering people, right? It's like you got to inspire people to do the work for you, right? You want to get out of doing all the work. You want to get into managing other people doing the work, but you have to empower them. You have to treat them with respect. You have to build them up, tell them how great they're doing when they are. Never miss an opportunity to tell someone how great they're doing.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
good advice.
they'll go to bat for you. And then you'll find like, okay, this thing is rolling and other people are starting to drive it. And then that's when things start to click.
Nick, you've had quite a successful career so far with
Not there
Templi.
yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing great. I think you're off to a good pace, and it's impressive of how you turned your life around and have changed everything for you and your family. So and we appreciate your time with us today. Thanks for all of the great advice. And we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for joining us today.
Amazing, Mike. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me, and thank you, Donovan. And it's been a great time.
Likewise. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
Take care.
Everybody got a dream, let me show you all love. From an idea, working it into a startup. This the show that you need, what more could you ask for? Never know who become the CEO next door. Tune in, every episode insightful. The type of vibe you will want to subscribe to. Let's go. Hey.